All right. Well, official good morning to everybody and Shabbat Shalom. We're going to begin just with a quick word of welcome to get ourselves settled. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. How great is it that we are here together? Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. One more time. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Well, welcome everybody. It is so wonderful to see you all here as we take a moment on this beautiful morning to celebrate Shabbat, our day of rest, our day of hope, and with that, the learning and the entry into Jewish responsibility for an already incredible young woman, Gabriella. We are going to do a number of things today. We are going to read from our holy text. We are going to hear about Gabriella's own interpretation of our Jewish tradition, and we are going to celebrate and mark the family values that have been passed down in this family from generation to generation, and that will continue to grow and develop for many, many years. Just a few ground rules. We're all doing great right now because we are in the midst of our public health crisis. We are asking that everyone stay masked for the entirety of the ceremony, and that you choose to be socially distant from those you're not already being with, potting with, living with, have had contact with before. This is for everybody's safety. It is for the safety of those you see around you and the love and care of those you see around you. And also it is for the safety of the professionals who are here at Temple Emmanuel, who are caring for many, many, many families. And we as the clergy and we as our professional team are continuing to provide care and support to people in hospitals and doing funerals in person as well. And so we are also being careful and cautious about not creating a situation where we as clergy professionals end up accidentally and inadvertently creating a worse public health situation. So there's a lot of reasons why we're asking you to help us in that holy work this morning. We are going to begin right away with the symbol of our Jewish tradition. So you see here on the table in front of me is a Torah scroll. And in just a moment, I'm going to talk a lot more about what this Torah scroll represents. But later on in the service, Gabriella is going to read from the Torah. And before we do that, we are going to invite members of her family to come stand up next to her right in front of this tree. So we have a beautiful background in front of which to take photos. And we are going to talk about what does it mean to pass down the values that are contained in this Torah scroll from generation to generation. So at this time, I'm going to invite Lois Gittler, Tom Myers, Sheila Wymore, Monty Wymore, Marnie, and Tim Myers, and Casey, as well as Gabriella, to come stand in a nice line right in front of this tree. You're going to stand basically right next to the table, just a little bit in front of the pole so that we can see you very, very nicely. Beautiful job.
Oh, we're at the end, so we have to go over here.
There you go, yep.
Nice and
Marnie and Tim right next to Gabriella.
Hey.
Perfect. Very, very good. Grandparents. Yes. Casey, you're all set? Right there. Perfect. Beautiful job. So I'm actually going to come.
Lois and Sheila. There you go. Oh, you're good, Grandma. Other dad. I know, I confuse everybody. I'm sorry.
Okay, everyone in a comfortable spot? Yes? You look great. Everyone looks beautiful. So I hold in my arms right here, which I'm actually going to take out of its talus so that we can display the mantle, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well. Okay. I hold in my arms this Torah scroll. This is one of the several Torah scrolls that we have here at Temple Emmanuel. And each one of these scrolls contains within it the teachings of the 5 books of Moses, the story of our people from the moment of creation through their journey to the very edge of the land of Israel, where they will grow into a nation unto themselves. This text contains within it thousands of years of history and tradition and values and guidance and support. Torah has been a part of the Jewish people from the very end of the Bible itself. We have always reviewed our past, learned from our past, and counted on the teachings in this document to help us lead better and more fulfilling lives. This Torah represents all of the learning and all of the growing that you, Gabriella, have done over these past 13 years. It represents all of the amazing values and lessons and love that your family has passed down to you. Every moment that your grandparents and your parents, and sometimes even your brother, every moment that they have helped you and supported you and taught you how to be in this world is represented in this scroll. The Jewish people has always valued and treasured Torah. And sometimes in our history, that has not been easy. For many, many years, the Jewish people have lived by Torah, and sometimes they have died from Torah. And sometimes it has caused great strife and sadness because of our dedication to this document. And I say that not out of fear or a sense of guilt, but rather because there has been truth that has lived with this for thousands of years. A truth that has seemed so essential and so eternal that those of us who are in relationship with Torah have carried it with us in our hearts and in our minds, even when it was extraordinarily and existentially difficult. And so it is on this morning that we pass down symbolically this amazing responsibility and this amazing gift to you, that you now have a responsibility to love it on your own and to learn from it on your own and to use it to grow and to become the amazing woman that I know you are already on the path to becoming. And so in that spirit, I'm going to invite each of your grandparents and your parents to offer you a blessing that represents the teachings in this Torah. And then we will hand you the Torah to hold for the first time as a bat mitzvah. I'm going to ask the grandparents to read very loudly your blessing. Go ahead.
Our hearts are one on this joyous day. As you commit yourself, life of Torah, a life we pray, filled with wisdom, caring, and right action.
Pray that you grow each day in compassion for the needy, in concern for the stranger, in love of all people.
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Rachel and Leah, bless you on your becoming B'nai Mitzvah.
May you grow with strength and courage, with vision and sensitivity, and may you always be certain of God. Amen.
It's beautiful. So I'm going to ask you to come over here. I am going to hand this to you, and then you are going to, don't worry, I'm not going to let you drop it. There you go. Okay, perfect. We'll put your arm all the way down the front. You got it. Okay, the lower you carry it, the easier it'll be. Okay? Okay. You're going to walk around the tent and put it on the table. I'm going to invite everyone else to take their seats. Beautifully done. Perfect. Okay, so as I undress the Torah scroll, just a few more words about the Torah itself while Gabriella gets her Torah introduction ready. Okay? Okay. So, as I mentioned, the Torah contains the 5 books of Moses. Every Torah has exactly the same text. We have multiple scrolls here at Temple Emmanuel. We are blessed to have many scrolls of Torah to take care of, and each one has the same teaching. Now, you'll see when I unwrap this Torah that the Torah is made from 2 poles of wood, parchment in the middle, handmade ink is used to create the letters, and when a person writes on the Torah scroll, they use a quill from an actual animal. So I mention this because every piece of material that is used to create a Torah scroll is natural. Nothing is manufactured. Nothing is synthetic. Everything comes from the earth and is part of the created world that God made and is represented in this Torah. We have a number of scrolls here. Every scroll looks different because every scroll is handwritten. It takes a scribe or a sofer in the Jewish tradition about a year to write an entire Torah scroll. It is a long and difficult endeavor. The letters in the Torah scroll are basic Hebrew letters, but they are also decorated above and below in order to honor the teaching and the beauty of the text that is represented here. The other piece that I shared with you before Gabriella reads so beautifully, as some of you heard just a few minutes before this ceremony, is that Hebrew is a language that uses consonants and vowels a little bit differently than English does. In the Hebrew language, the consonants are the actual letters and the vowels are symbols that lie below and above those consonants. When you learn to read Hebrew, you read with all of that in front of you, vowels and consonants. In the Torah, only the consonants exist. The vowels and the punctuation are not a part of the Torah scroll. And that is true for a number of reasons that have to do with the ancient practice of scribe writing. And it is not primarily to torture every one of our bar and bat mitzvah students, but Gabriella has worked very, very hard. And she has done beautifully in order to achieve being able to read from a Torah scroll. And so we say that we hope this is the first time of many, many times that Gabriella will be reading from Torah for our congregation and sharing her beautiful voice with us. And with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over. Hold on. There we go.
It might be off.
And I'm literally going to turn it on and over to Gabriella, who's going to tell you a little bit about her portion.
The Torah portion for this Shabbat is Re'eh from the book of Deuteronomy. In this Torah portion, we review the rules for taking care of and providing for everyone in our community. I will be reading from chapter 15, verses 1 through 15.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So at this time, we are going to call a number of groups up to help bless the Torah. So 2 things about that. If you did not have a chance to pick up a pink handout on your way in, that is where the Torah blessings are. So if you are one of our Torah blessers today, you definitely will want to have a pink handout with you. And we are going to ask, in the spirit of social distancing, that those who are having an aliyah stand right in front of the tree and therefore can say their blessing loudly and proudly, while Gabriella and I prepare to read from the Torah. So for the first aliyah, I am going to call Lon Gittler, Dana Wood, and Lois Gittler to come and help bless the Torah. Right over. This is yours. I'm actually going to grab this for you so I can follow along. Okay. Yeah, I got it. And put it right over here. Perfect. We're going to get Gabriella all set, and I'll tell you when we're ready. Oh, you're good. You're good. You're right there. Okay. Okay. Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Kitcha Vashanim, Taase Shemitah, Vezed Mar Hashemita, Shamo, Kopal Mashado, Asher Yasher Berehu, Lo Yigash et Rehu, Bet Achiv, Kikara Shemitah, Ladonai, Etanochi Tigos, Asher Hikelecha, Et Achicha Tashmei Yadecha.
Beautiful job. Gabriella is going to read her English. I'm going to hand that to her before we finish the blessing. There you go.
Every seventh year he shall practice remission and debt. This shall be the nature of the remission. All creditors shall remit the dues that they claim from their fellow Israelites. They shall not dun their fellow Israelites, or kin, for the remission proclaimed is of the eternal. You may dun the foreigner, but you must remit whatever is due you from your kin.
Beautiful job. Blessing after.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam nata b'torheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Air fives and waves from over there. Beautiful. And then you can return to your seats. For our second aliyah, I'm going to call Allie, Lexus, and Brett Gittler, cousins of Gabriella, the bat mitzvah, to say our blessing. Good job. Go ahead. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Efes ki lo yigebecha Elyon, ki lavrech yavrechacha Adonai ba'aretz, asher Adonai Elohecha notin lecha nachala l'rishta. Rak im shamoa tishma b'kol Adonai Elohecha lishmor la'asot Eku mitzvah hazot, asher anochi mitzavcha hayom. Ki Adonai Elohecha b'rachacha, ka'asher dibalach, v'ha'avatita goyim rabim. V'ata lo ta'avot, u'mashalta goyim rabim, u'pal lo yimsholu. There shall be no needy among you, since the eternal your God will bless you in the land that the eternal your God is giving you as a hereditary portion. If only you heed the eternal your God and take care to keep all this instruction that I enjoin upon you this day. For the eternal your God will bless you as promised. You will extend loans to many nations, but require none yourself. You will dominate many nations, but they will not dominate you.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam nata b'tofenu, baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Air fives. Very nice. For our third aliyah, we call Marnie and Tim and Casey to actually come under our tent and stand next to Gabriella as they offer their blessing. Okay, just don't trip on the light. There we go, perfect. You ready? Casey, why don't you come right there with that? Perfect. All right, look at that. Okay, loud and proud. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Leolam Ba'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'karanu mikol ha'amin, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Ki yeh lecha avion, ve'achad achicha, ve'achad sha'arecha, ve'artecha, asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach, lo ta'amet et levacha, ve'lo tikpot et yadcha, ve'achicha ha'avion, ki batoach tiftach et yadcha lo baha'avet ta'avitenu de masoro asher yasar lo hishamer lecha hein yedabar im lavavecha veleyav lemor karba shanat hasheva shanat hashemita vera incha ve'achicha ha'avion velo titein lo v'kara alecha al Adonai v'haya v'chafet naton titein lo velo yera levacha v'titecha lo ki v'gvaro hadavar hazeh yavrechacha Adonai Elohecha v'kol ma'asecha u'kol mishlach yadecha ki lo yakda avion mikarev haaretz al ken anochi metzavcha lemor hatoach tiftah et yadcha le'achicha la'aniecha u'levioncha be'artzecha.
Beautiful job. English first. This is the first page and I'll give you the second page.
If, however, there is a needy person among you, one of your kin in any of your settlements in the land that the Eternal your God is giving you, do not
who are ill in our community, those who are in need of healing and support, and especially at this time when we are aware of how many people are suffering in the world, we take a moment to harness the power of the holiness that sits within this family, that sits within this room at this time as we celebrate, and pray that those who need our strength and our healing and our comfort will receive it on this Shabbat and as we move forward. So we will pause in between the verses of this prayer to offer names, and then we will conclude together. So we sing. Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor Abracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. On this Shabbat, we hold in our hearts the names of those in our minds. We take a moment to pray for those in our family and our community who need our healing. Baruch atah Adonai, makor harefuah. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings healing to those who are ill. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor Abracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. And now, it is our privilege and our pleasure to call to the Torah for the first time as a bat mitzvah, Gabriella Sophia Myers. Are you ready? Tamar habachura bat mitzvah, Gavri Sarah bat Freda Davida, Lalia HaTorah.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Ba'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'Torah. Amen. Ki macher lecha achicha ha'ivri, ha'ivriya, v'avatcha sheishanim, ובשנה השביעית תשלחנו חופשי ממך, וכי תשלחנו חופשי ממך, לא תשלחנו רקם. תעניק לו מצונך ומגורנך ומעקבך אשר דרכך אדוני אלוהיך תיתן לו וזכרת כי עבדך היית בארץ מצרים ויבטחך אדוני אלוהיך כן אנוכי מצווך את הדבר הזה היום. If a fellow Hebrew man or woman is sold to you, he shall serve you 6 years. In the 7th year, you shall set him free. When you set him free, do not let him go empty-handed. Furnish him out of the flock, threshing floor and fat, with which the Eternal your God has blessed you. Bear in mind that you were slaves in the land of Egypt, and the Eternal your God redeemed you. Therefore, I enjoin this commandment upon you today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam neta betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Simen tov u'mazel tov and simen tov u'mazel tov u'mazel tov and simen tov u'mazel tov and simen tov Yelanu u'lechol Yisrael Yelanu u'lechol Yisrael. Great job. We say mazel tov to Gabriella on reading so beautifully. I'm going to invite Marnie and Tim and Casey to go take their seats. Beautiful job. We are going to transition to the Haftarah. And I am going to put the Torah away. I'm going to give Gabriella her materials to get herself all set for Haftarah. Fix your earring, very important. There you go. So Haftarah is, surprisingly, not half a Torah. The Haftarah is actually an additional reading from a different section of our Bible. A very long time ago, as I mentioned in our words about the power of Torah, it was not always easy or allowed for the Jewish community to read from our Torah scrolls and from our holy text throughout history. Many governments forbid the study of Torah and the reading of Torah out of fear that the Jewish community in their midst would use this text to rise up against them. And so in their wisdom, our leaders from long ago, while trying to keep the community safe, instead turned to another portion of our Bible, the prophets, the words of moral instructors who remind us what is the heart and core of our teaching, even when our prescribed actions are not available to us. And so they went through the second section of our Bible, the prophets section, and they picked passages that thematically are connected to every Torah portion. And for many years, the Jewish community would read those sections instead of reading from Torah, thereby not getting themselves into danger in their communities, but maintaining the spirit of our text and our holy laws. And so on this morning, Gabriella is also going to teach us from the Haftarah from our books of prophets. Are you ready? Go for it.
The Haftarah for this Shabbat is the 3rd of 7, Haftarot of Consolation, leading up to the High Holy Days. In this Haftarah, the prophet Isaiah reaffirms the covenant between God and the Jewish people, promising that God will restore Israel to its homeland. I will be reading from Isaiah chapter 55, verses 1 through 5.
Do the blessing before. That's okay. I know I'm excited, especially right. It's right in there. Hold on.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar בנביאים טובים ורצה בדבריכם הנאמרים באמת. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בתורה ובמשה ידו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
Amen.
Boy, Hotsama, Lahu Lamaim, Basher Emu, Kasef, Lahu Shibru, Ta'ahulu, Uhu Shibru, Belo Kasef, Ublo Machir, Yain Bechelav, Lama, Tishkelu Kasef, Belo Lechem, Vigyachem velo lesiva Shimu Shamoa Elai Vechluto Betitana Badeshen Nafshechem Hatu Esnechem Uhu Elai Shimu Uchi Nafshechem Vechrita Lechem Berit Olam Kaste David Hanemanim Hey Et Laumhim Netativ Nagid Utsave Laumim Hey Goy Lo Teda Tikra Vagoy Lo Yaducha Elecha Yarutu Letman Adonai Elohecha Velikosh Yisrael Yifei Arach. Come all who are thirsty, come for water, even if you have no money. Come buy food and eat. Come buy food without money. Wine and milk without cost. Why spend money for what is not bread? Why spend your wages for it does not satisfy? Listen well to me, and you shall eat what is good, and your soul shall delight in abundance. Open your ears and come to me. Hearken, and you shall live. I will make an everlasting covenant for you. The true love I extended to David, as once I made him a witness to the world, a prince and commander of nations. So now you shall summon people you do not know, and people that you do not know shall come running to you, because the eternal your God, the Holy One of Israel, who has given you glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, dur kol ha'olamim, tzadik b'kol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, v'mdaber u'mkayim, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah, ve'al ha'avodah, ve'al ha'nevi'im, ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatatal lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Likdusha v'limdecha, Lechavod u'tifaret, Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, Anochu modim lach, Im barchimotach, Yitbarach Shimcha b'fikul chai, Tamid le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Gabriella, Mazel Tov, that was truly beautiful. A really fitting way to teach and sing the words of Isaiah in your beautiful voice. So I'm going to ask you now to prepare, if drinking is good, for your Devar Torah. One of the main points of becoming bar and bat mitzvah in the Jewish tradition is the ability now to learn and struggle and glean on your own from our holy texts. And so in that spirit, Gabriella is going to teach us what she has learned from her Torah portion and how that connects to her Jewish identity and her Jewish life. Are you ready?
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My Torah portion is called Re'eh. Parashat Re'eh is in the book of Deuteronomy, and in it, Moses is in the process of preparing the Israelites to go into the land of Israel and reminding them of all the laws God has given them. There are two ideas in my portion that stood out to me. The first is the law of kashrut, the keeping kosher. The second is the idea that the Jews are the chosen people, or Em Segulah. The idea of keeping kosher talks about the requirements of what we are allowed to eat and not allowed to eat. But that is only one part of kashrut. The laws are not as simple as just two lists of animals. In addition to which animals we're allowed to eat, there are also specific rules on how the animals are killed and prepared. Some examples of those rules include one in which consume the animal's blood. Instead, it has to be spilled onto the earth like water. Or when killing the animal, you have to make it as painless as possible. Also, you cannot cut a part off the animal while they are still alive. I chose to talk about this part of my Torah portion because it is important to know what you can or cannot eat and how to do it. It is important to me because if you eat the wrong animal, then there will be consequences. Em Segulah means a treasured people of God. It means that God chose them out of everyone. I chose to talk about this part of my Torah portion because what you eat says a lot about the family and community that you belong to. Part of what it means to be Jewish involves how and what we eat. It is possible to see these instructions about our food as a part of our responsibility as the chosen people. In the commentary section of my Torah portion, there are assumptions about the concept of being chosen. Text explains that first, Jews possess hereditary traits that make them ethically and religiously different than others. Second, the Jews were the first to receive these religious and ethical conceptions and ideals. Third, Jews possess the truest form of religious and ethical ideals. Lastly, Jews have the historic task of teaching these ideals to the world. Even though there are the assumption that because God chose us as the treasured people, that we would act superior to others. Most people understand that no one is better than anyone else because people are people. Some people have their preferences, but no one thinks the same way as everyone else. Therefore, I believe that we are all equal no matter our differences. I chose this part of my Torah portion because this is one of the most significant parts of Parashat Re'eh. I read an article called Traditional Views of Jewish Chosenness on a website called My Jewish Learning, and it had some writing from Deuteronomy chapter 7, verses 6 through 8. It said, "It is not because you are the most numerous of people that the Lord set his heart on you and chose you. Indeed, you are the smallest of people, but it was because the Lord favored you and kept the oath he made to your fathers, that the Lord freed you with a mighty hand and rescued you from the house of bondage, from the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt." This passage shows that Jewish people were not chosen because we are in any way better or superior than anyone else. It is because we have a special relationship with God. When I had first gotten to this section of my speech, I was like, the only thing that I relate to in my Torah portion is that I was assigned to it. But there are actually a few ways it relates to me. In gymnastics, my mom saw early on that I was coordinated, agile, and very interested in tumbling and cartwheeling whenever I had the chance. It wouldn't take me long to try a skill a few times before I nailed it. It feels like gymnastics chose me as much as I chose it. When I was little, I had always dreamed of doing a standing back tap. So whenever my brother and I would play some sort of role play, I would always work a flip into the game. I loved dance and gymnastics, but I could not do both. I had to choose between them. I chose gymnastics because there's dance in gymnastics, and I could make my dream of flips come true. By choosing gymnastics, it made me show a form of responsibility to the sport. I became a representative of gymnasts everywhere. It is the same for the Jewish people, who have always known that the responsibility was bestowed upon them to carry on the tradition. My Torah portion has taught me that God chose the Jewish people to be the treasured people because of the special relationship that God had with the Jews. In the same way that I have a special relationship with gymnastics. It has also taught me a lot about keeping kosher. I never knew most of the animals that you cannot eat, and I definitely never knew how you had to prepare them. Like that you have to kill the animal as painlessly as possible, and you cannot eat the blood of the animal, even if it was an accident. I chose responsibility for my Jewish value. In Hebrew, it is achrayut. Responsibility means that you are supposed to persevere, keep on trying, always do your best, use self-control, and think before you act. It also means that you have to be accountable for your actions and know the consequences. The definition for responsibility applies to many situations, like when you are put in charge while the teacher leaves the room. You have to keep the class in line and not let them goof off while you do what the teacher has told you to do. Or when you're doing schoolwork and you know you can just blow off the homework because there's too much, but instead you do the work and not have to worry about the consequences. In my Torah portion, there are many signs of responsibility. The Jewish people have to be responsible to make the right decisions about their eating, and they have to take responsibility for recipients of the chosenness that God had bestowed upon them by obeying blessing and curse that God had set before them. By taking responsibility for being God's treasured people, they would also have to make sure that they did not think they were better. I have had to take responsibility for many things. For my passions, I have to not slack off and do the work so that my passions will be fun and not stressful. I have to be responsible for doing the homework in school, not overdoing it on screen time, and even more. I have to use this Jewish value moving forward and be responsible for learning more Hebrew and participating in my community. For my Mitzvah project, I am making soul boxes. The soul box project is where anyone makes a homemade box out of 8.5 by 8.5 inch pieces of paper. These boxes help prevent gun violence. Each one that is made represents a life that was taken by gun violence. My goal to start off was 108 boxes with the help from my family and friends. I completed the 108 soul boxes. 108 is a multiple of 18. 18 is chai, which means life. The Soulbox project has gone to many places to show the gallery of boxes that tons of communities have contributed. I encourage you to make some origami soul boxes and decorate them as beautifully as you like. If you go onto soulboxproject.org, you can find out more about the soul boxes, learn how to make one, and even send it in. If you can take 10 minutes of your day watching something, then you can make an easy box while you watch. Personally, I've enjoyed making these boxes because I love origami and it's for an amazing cause. The Soulbox project was perfect for my Parashat because we have to take responsibility for our world, in this case, by helping fight against gun violence. There are a few people I would like to thank. First, to my dad, for always helping me understand some of the English texts. I admire all the energy you gave me when I didn't understand something or I just didn't feel like I could do it. Next, I would like to thank my mom for planning everything from the luncheon to the party. Speech, because I'm not the best at making speeches. And I admire that you are the best mom anyone could ask for. And I would like to thank Cantor for helping me with the prayers. Now, I'd like to thank my tutor Liza for helping me with my Hebrew and helping me make this all happen. Lastly, I would like to thank all of you who are here and on Facebook Live that came to support me and celebrate with me. I will now conclude with the blessing of Thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, she'achianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh.
Amen.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, for giving us life, for sustaining us, and for enabling us to reach the season. Amen.
Amen. Deep breath. Gabriella, really, well, we say in Hebrew, Yasher Kochech, which means great strength you have displayed in what you just taught us, which could not be more apt for you, not only in the really impressive learning that you took from this portion, which is not easy, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute, but in your delivery and the conviction of what you wrote. It is so clear that you really put yourself into those words. And so thank you for teaching us this morning. At this time, I'm going to invite your parents to come and offer you some words of blessing. So what I'm going to ask you to do, Gabriella, is come stand right in front of the Torah and look at your parents, and your parents are going to stand right behind the microphone, and I have a feeling I might need to move that a little bit. Dear Gabriella, as you embark on this journey as a young woman, there are 3 areas I'd like you to keep in mind. 1, your interest in learning. 2, your passion for the arts. And 3, your Jewish practice. Your interest in learning. Gab, you've shown much interest in learning Hebrew in order to master your mitzvah. Continue on your journey of learning, especially the language, Hebrew, French, maybe Italian. It'll greatly assist you on your future travels and assist you in sharing your stories with many interesting people. Your passion for the arts. Ooh, that takes me back to kindergarten. You had an enormous passion for the arts, playing the violin, practicing theater camps, producing your own dances, and creating custom arts and crafts until paint and glue and glitter was all over your body. Bring your love for the arts into everything you do. Find a local community of enthusiastic creatives who share your passion and continue perfecting your craft. Your Jewish practice. Judaism teaches us to be just and compassionate, to practice kindness, and to help those less fortunate. Share your story of becoming a bat mitzvah and allow others to understand why you keep your Jewish faith. Your Hebrew name, Gavri Sarah, Gavri meaning God is your strength, and Sarah meaning my princess. You are my strong princess warrior, tackling every challenge with careful consideration for a successful outcome, such as medal placing on gymnastics floor and beam routines, performing classical violin and fiddle tunes for honors recitals, and acting in theater performances like Mary Poppins, Mulan, and
that you love, you will never work. day in your life. If you do something that you love, you will always have happiness. Here's a wishing well. Here's a penny for any thought it is that makes you smile. Every dime dream, everything that brings love and happiness through your life. Here's a rabbit's foot. Take it when you go, so you'll always know, safe from harm. When you put those down. Wear your ruby shoes when you're far away, so you'll always stay home in your heart. You will always have a lucky star that shines because of what you are. Even in the deepest night, because your aim is true. And if I could only have one wish, darling, then it would be this. Love and happiness for you. Love you, Gabriella.
Well, that's almost impossible to follow. Gabriella, the love that is displayed in your family is just tremendous. And I have had the privilege to know your family for quite some time now. Really, you were one of the first families that I got the chance to interact with when I came here to Temple about 8 years ago. And to watch you and your brother grow and learn and develop has been a real privilege for me. Really under the strong guidance of your parents and all that they do to support you. I'm going to ask Casey to come now just for a moment to offer you a quick blessing so that then we can all be together as a family. That's going to be pointing here and I will adjust here. Just a little bit cranky.
Gabby, you have made me very proud today. I always think that I'm the one inspiring you, but today it's the opposite. You're the one inspiring me to be diligent, hardworking, and passionate about everything that you do. So for that, I say thank you.
next to you. Thank you so much. And Tim, you can scooch over next to me. Okay, my turn. You okay? Everyone okay? I'm actually gonna turn this off for 1 minute. Gabriella, this has been a long journey to this moment. And there were a lot of ups and downs that brought us here. I always knew that you were going to take this Torah portion, which is admittedly a little bit difficult, and do something spectacular with it. That was always going to be true. And then on top of all of that, we arrived at this moment in the midst of a very heavy situation in the world. And you have embraced that reality with grace and with fortitude, with a real understanding that at this moment in history, this is what we do as the Jewish people. That we look around us and we see what is happening in the world, that even when it is beyond our control, we take what we know and we take the gifts that we have and the strength that's within us, and we face that difficulty and we rise to the occasion, and we nevertheless find pieces of beauty, even when there is difficulty and sadness. And you really have done that today. You have brought lightness and beauty and grace and charm to this moment, when it would be very easy to be overwhelmed by the reality of what we face. So for that, I say thank you. And for that, I tell you that I cannot wait to see what you are going to do in this world, how you are going to make this world a better place, how you are going to live up to the fundamental principle of our faith, of tikkun olam, of making this world a better place, of literally fixing this world, that you have all of the gifts ready to make that possible and true. We talk a lot in Judaism also about the combination of the intellectual, the physical, and the spiritual. And I could not imagine a person who more represents that than you, right? Your love for gymnastics is not always related directly to Judaism, but the number of texts in our tradition that talk about why it's important to care for our bodies and learn from our bodies and learn from physical activity, and how that teaches us truth in the world is many. And you take that and all of the values and lessons that you spoke about in your Devar Torah that you have learned from your gymnastics, make you able to face the world in a variety of ways. So you have the physical down. Clearly, the intellectual is so there with you. And your mother spoke about that beautifully, that you have always had curiosity and intellectual curiosity and want to know more and ask great questions and try to figure out why a Torah portion that talks about lots of weird stuff can actually be really meaningful for you. And so what I hope for you today is that you take those tremendous gifts you have in those two areas and you combine them with your heart and soul, which guide and support you on your spiritual journey, which is so there, and which your Judaism and your Jewish community and your entire family can continue to cultivate and help you develop into the totality of what happens when you combine the intellectual, the physical, and the spiritual. So thank you. Thank you for bringing your gifts here today. Thank you for allowing us to see. The title of your Torah portion is Re'eh, look, see. Thank you for allowing us to see what a bright future there can be. Usually at this time, I also have a prop bag and I give you gifts. And those are not available at this moment, given what is going on in our world, but just a couple of quick words about the gifts that we as a congregation give to you for all of your hard work. You will receive a bat mitzvah certificate, a teudat bat mitzvah that has your Hebrew name and the date on which you became a bat mitzvah, that I hope will be a sign for you, not just of the day and the way in which you became a bat mitzvah, but also the values that you celebrated here at this moment. We have planted a tree in Israel in honor of your bat mitzvah so that you can continue to help the Jewish people make the world a greener place, which is appropriate right now, given what you are wearing. We have given you a gift of a mezuzah and a kiddush cup from our brotherhood and sisterhood so that you can always have a Jewish home wherever you are. And last but not least, we have a book from the clergy. It is a Torah commentary for teens called Text Messages. And on the inside, yes, it's funny if you think about it for 1 minute, right? On the inside front cover, each of the clergy has inscribed a message for you. So all of that will come in the next few months, God willing. But all of that really is to say Mazel Tov and thank you for this amazing moment. And so in that spirit, I am going to invite your parents and Casey to come a little bit closer. Casey, I want you to roll right next to your dad. You turn around and face me. There you go. There you go. Perfect. And we are going to offer you a blessing. We are going to offer you a blessing with words from Torah, from which you read just so beautifully a few moments ago. And these ancient words come from a moment in our Torah where God tells Aaron, Moses' brother, to bless the entire people of Israel. And in that moment, we realize and remember that we are all indeed deserving of blessing, that we all bring great gifts and strength into this world. And so we take a moment to use these words, which are often repeated at important moments in our lives, to help you remember that you are indeed a blessing to the entire Jewish people. Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May God bless you and watch over you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. May God shine light towards you and grant you grace and compassion. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'asem lecha shalom. Shalom. May God lift God's face toward you always. And may God grant you the greatest gift of all, the gift of fulfillment and of peace. And together we all say, Amen. Okay, one last hug, and then go sit down. Hugging is good. Okay. I invite you all to take your seats. Please don't fall down. Gabriella, you're actually going to stay right here with me. Just you can take a chair right there. Yeah. You can sit down. Take a break. There you go. So we are about to conclude our ceremony. And we do that at each service with words of memory. Memory for those who are no longer with us. Because it is also from these members of our family and our loved ones that we have learned and that we have been taught values that have been so beautifully represented at this ceremony today. So at this time, the family wishes to remember Marvin Gittler, grandfather of Gabriella. And so now I ask, if you are in a period of mourning, if you have lost a loved one in the past 7 days, to please rise as you are able. If you have lost a loved one in the previous 30 days, please rise as you are able. If you are in the first year of mourning the loss of a loved one, we ask you to rise as you are able. And together now, we all rise as one community. We rise in our hearts, we rise with our bodies, as we say together the words of the mourner's Kaddish. She's on the other side of me. Gadal ve'yikadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon Uchayedecho Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mavarach Le'olam U'Lamei Maya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitroman V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shmei Kudsha Brichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom mimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. We say, may the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And together we say, Amen. So we conclude with words of song, with words of joy, as we sing on this beautiful Shabbat morning in celebration of this amazing Bat Mitzvah and all the gifts that she brings. Hava Neshira, Shir Hallelujah. Let us sing a song of joy to God. We sing together. Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. 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 Everyone says, Mazel Tov, Gabriella. Woo! You can go hug your family. Hava, Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. Hava Nashira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.